Hey guys, today we're back in a 2023 Toyota GR Corolla. This is a Core Edition with a performance and technology package. We are out on some beautiful canyon roads here in Southern California this week, and we're driving a bunch of different cars. This is one of them. This is actually my first time driving the GR Corolla on the street. I mostly had driven it just on track at the Toyota launch event a few months ago. So let's walk you around this real quick. We'll show you what it looks like inside and out, and then we'll take it for a drive and give you guys some thoughts and some more driving impressions on this car, because I've been very curious to get back behind the wheel of this now that I've spent a lot of time in my Civic Type R. I've gone home, spent more time in the BRZ. I think this kind of slots in nicely as a really good performance option for enthusiasts. So first, just some basic details. This one is painted in Supersonic Red. Looks great in person and in the real world. We have a 1.6 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder with 300 horsepower. 6-speed manual transmission. It's all-wheel drive. You can torque split 60-40 front rear, 50-50, and 30-70 front rear with different all-wheel drive settings. It says the performance pack, so it has the differentials, which is great. That's what you'll want. One thing you notice about the GR Corolla is because it is all-wheel drive, you have a pretty high loading floor in the back here. Not a ton of space. Underneath that is just full of running gear for the all-wheel drive system. Still enough room in the back. Because this is a Corolla, it's a bit tight in the rear seats, but still it's doable. I'm 5'10", seated behind my driving position. I've actually got enough room back here. It's cozy, but that's okay. Maybe that's what you want in this rally-inspired all-wheel drive Corolla. Interior on this Core Edition is a bit bare bones. Cloth seats, though they're very well bolstered and they look nice. They say GR right in the middle there. And the rest of this car is pretty much what we showed you before at the Toyota launch event. All right, let's hop in. We'll take this for a drive and give you guys some more driving impressions. We spent some time in the city driving us out to the canyons. And I've got to say, in the city, this is a really entertaining car to just kind of cruise around in. The shifter is very mechanical. It's a little bit clunky to drive sometimes, but once you get in the kind of rhythm with it, it's very engaging and actually super fun. It's kind of, I think it rivals the BRZ in terms of casual around town driving enjoyment. This 3-cylinder turbo sounds really entertaining. Makes some really cool turbo noises. And they're always changing. They're always a little bit unpredictable. I like that when you start up the vehicle, it'll default to IMT off, so no auto rev matching. Luckily, throttle response is pretty good here. You can do it yourself very easily and very smoothly. As a manual driving experience, this is very nice. I actually do really like this shifter. It has a very stiff nature to its throw, hyper mechanical. You can hear it engage those cogs. Driving position is a little bit higher up, but as a result, you get pretty good visibility. You kind of feel like you're on top of this car. It's like you can kind of grab it by the scruff of its neck and just toss it around. Pretty big bumps around here. Ride quality's good. The center gauge cluster is a bit different from what we've seen in a lot of other Toyota models, so as a result, it took me some time to kind of get used to it. The controls are a bit convoluted, but once you acclimate to the settings and to the different controls, it works out. You can basically control what you see in each of these 3 sections of the gauge cluster. You can have a more performance-oriented cluster. You can switch it up to see other information like adaptive cruise control or fuel economy, stuff like that. I have it set to this mode, and we are in normal drive mode, which I think we'll just probably leave it in for now. Might as well until we get into the canyons. This 3-cylinder turbo makes such a unique noise. Power feels pretty good on the street. I think in the real world, something like this is going to be just as fast as any of its competitors. It's still a bit of a momentum car. The all-wheel drive system doesn't put down as much power as I feel like a front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive car would with this power level, with 300 horsepower rating. There is some more drivetrain loss here. The biggest complaint that I heard when this car first came out and all the journalists drove the launch event was that it just kind of lacked a little bit in drama. We saw all these marketing materials of this thing sliding around corners on track, and maybe on a slippery track, you get this thing a little bit sideways. But for the most part, this is going to be a very buttoned down performance car. You're not going to get this thing to oversteer. You're not going to get this thing to really do a whole lot except go exactly where you point it on the street. That'll change if you live somewhere where you get snow, it's winter out, you've got some low grip surface to drive on, maybe a gravel road. Power falls off a little bit towards redline. It likes to stay in that meaty mid-range. I've got to say, this is a pretty engaging car to drive on the street. This is a little bit more fun out here than I thought it might be. It's tough to get an idea for what a car is going to be like on the street after spending all day out on the track in it. The track is kind of its own little bubble, and very often cars that aren't as satisfying on track tend to be really good street cars in ways that you wouldn't quite expect. I think my favorite thing about this GR Corolla so far is just how enjoyable it is to drive casually around town. From the clutch engagement, the shifter, the way this thing sounds, it kind of feels special. It has that pokey rally car vibe to it. It's always egging you on to go a little bit quicker. It has good ground clearance, so it's usable. You don't feel like you're always going to smash up a bumper going up a steep driveway in this thing. And it's kind of raw. Brakes feel really nice. Definitely a step up from something like the WRX or the BRZ, for example, or GR86. Not quite on par with the Type R's Brembo system, but still quite good on the street. Plenty of bite. Feels like you've got a high quality braking system under your foot. A lot of confidence, good feel. Cruising here at speed, pretty quiet too. I'd probably say quieter than the Type R. This engine doesn't quite have the responsiveness as the Type R's 2-liter, but I think it makes it a little more of an interesting noise, that's for sure. I like the steering too. Weights up nicely. There's a decent amount of feel from that front end. Some squirrel noises there from the turbo. Pedals are beautifully placed for heel toe downshifts. There is a lot of grip here, so much performance. We've just left this in 60-40 front rear torque bias. Push this button down here, put us into track 50-50 torque split front and rear. Let's try IMT, we'll turn that on. rev match system does a pretty good job on its own. Infotainment, pretty much what we've seen from Toyota and a lot of their other vehicles. You have these little icons here to the left of the screen, navigation, music, a few vehicle settings, and then of course CarPlay. And that's probably what most people are going to be leaving this in. It just loves to pull from about 3,000 RPM. That initial turn in from the front end is so sharp. On throttle, you can feel just a tiny amount of torque steer from the front axle. Kind of just carries the car around the corner, clawing its way into getting more traction. I will say, in the real world, it feels faster than it did on track by quite a margin. The pull from that mid-range, it comes on pretty instantly, and it really does give you the sensation of speed in this GR Corolla. I'm not wanting for more power like I was out on the racetrack here in the canyons. Again, you get it up into the higher revs and it tends to fall off a bit. But that mid-range is probably where we're going to be living most of the time anyway. And that's where this engine shines. Alright, let's turn off IMT, do some of the rev matching ourselves. And let's also turn on some air in this car, getting a little bit stuffy. Let's go into sport mode here. That should improve throttle response. Yeah, we get a little bit more action from the throttle there, higher up in pedal travel. Redline is just around, slightly over 7,000 RPM. Some other things I like about this GR Corolla right off the bat. Lots of simplicity here in the cockpit. We get a mechanical handbrake, and when you pull it, it'll disengage that rear axle, so you can do handbrake turns around corners. Awesome. Still haven't tried that yet. Haven't had any dirt to sling around in this thing. I think the interior is simple enough. A little bit lower on quality materials here in this core model, but honestly, all of that fades away once you start driving this thing. in that sense, it's kind of like an older STI or Evo with kind of crummy interior quality, but the driving experience was so good, no one really cared. I get a little bit of that here. I think Toyota did a great job with this car. It's so awesome that we finally get this in the United States. Hopefully they can make enough of them, or a reasonable amount of them, and bring them over in a timely manner so that they can somewhat keep up with demand. And yeah, hopefully there aren't as many people out there willing to pay markups either. This is a great car for $40,000. I'm not sure it's a great car for $50,000. All right, I think we're at the end of our run here. Hopefully that gave you guys a pretty good idea of what this GR Corolla is like to drive on the street. Super excited to get behind the wheel of this again and make some comparisons. Out of all the all-wheel drive rally-inspired cars we've seen in the last few years, Focus RS, WRX, STI, Evo, this is ultimately probably my favorite to drive. It's just a little bit nicer dynamically than all of them. It's got a fantastic all-wheel drive system. The engine is entertaining. I think with a little bit of tuning too, this would make some decent power and fix the fall off at higher revs too. So there's a little bit of aftermarket tweaking here that I think would really improve this GR Corolla. It's 95% of the way there though from the factory, and yeah, like I said, Toyota's done a great job with this car, and I am still impressed with it a couple months later after driving the Type R, after driving the GR86 and BRZ some more, after driving this. Yeah, don't sleep on the GR Corolla. I think this is still a wonderful option in today's age. If you need something that can do all-weather driving, this is kind of the best of the bunch. This can really dominate in the winter and in the snow, and even though we haven't driven one in those conditions yet, I think that's where this car shines. So if you live in the snow belt, GR Corolla would be a top recommendation. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. We're going to go drive some more of these cars and get you some more content out here while we're in California. Take care.